Nick Timothy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We are, it's obvious now, in the legacy hunting stage of this government. Less a range of exhausted volcanoes, more a row of trampled molehills. Ministers are desperate to be remembered for something. This morning, a word cloud was published by the pollsters at More in Common. The public was asked for the Prime Minister's greatest achievement. Emblazoned across the page in huge capital letters was the sad word, nothing. But today's announcement is a fitting tribute to the Justice Secretary and his predecessor. So desperate are they to find the causes of crime, they sometimes forget that their job is to prevent and punish crime itself. The truth is, Labour just don't have it in their DNA to be tough on crime. They've let 60,000 criminals out of jail early. They're abolishing short-term sentences, so almost all shoplifters and the majority of knife criminals will no longer be sent to prison. And they're pretending they're doing these things because they have to. But they're doing them because they want to. The Prisons Minister says only a third of prisoners should be locked up. The Sentencing Minister says a pretty big chunk of the overall population shouldn't be in prison. And today's announcement is more of the same, so I have some specific questions for the Right Honourable Gentleman. He wants to increase the age of criminal responsibility to reflect, quotes, a modern understanding of childhood, vulnerability and development. From smoking bans to voting rights, this government has a confused view of childhood. So what should be the age of criminal responsibility? With the wave of sexual and violent crime committed by illegal immigrants, many of whom pretend to be children, can he guarantee that these people will not escape justice a second time by faking their real age to the police? The government says it will review the function and purpose of criminal courts for child defendants. But the purpose of a criminal court is obvious. It's to try criminals. So can the Justice Secretary rule out abolishing criminal trials for under 18s? The government also says it wants to end lifelong disclosure requirements for the under 18s. Can he guarantee that those requirements will still apply for those guilty of violent crime and prolific offenders? The government says it will slash custodial remand for young offenders by a quarter, but remand should be used in response to need, not arbitrary targets. So what is his alternative? Will he just send criminals home? And will he stick to this target regardless of the level of violent crime and repeat offending? The government wants more parenting orders, but this morning the Justice Secretary said they're not used much at the moment because all judges can do to enforce them is issue a fine. He was unclear on this question, so will ministers who don't comply face jail? The figures, you were asked, the Right Honourable Gentleman was asked on the radio this morning whether parents who do not comply will face custodial sentences themselves, and he fudged that question, so I'm asking him to answer it now. The figures show young repeat offenders often start with theft and move on to drug offences and violence. Yet the government's big idea is to stop punishing swathes of crimes committed by under 18s. The gangs who swarmed shops to steal goods in places like Oxford Street, Ilford and Clapham don't need to be put on a course, they need clear punishment, and that can include prison. Mr. Speaker, the results of soft-touch liberalism are visible in towns and cities up and down the country, yet the changes the Justice Secretary is announcing today risk amounting to more of the same. This is a big call, and if youth crime goes up as a result, it will be on this government.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the Tories have a mixed record when it comes to youth justice and keeping young people out of criminality. We should remember their cuts to local authority spending saw a huge fall in council services for young people, about 70% in real terms. $1 billion was lost whilst they were in power. This led to the closure of many youth clubs, a reduction to outreach work, which was vital to keeping those young people on the right track. Youth workers completely undermined. All that early intervention work stopped. An entire generation sacrificed at the altar of austerity. They also, and the member for West Suffolk will know about this because he was right at the driving wheel of this, they cut 20 7,000 police officers, 7,000 PCSOs, leading to a collapse in visible neighbourhood policing. And on their watch, over, and this really is just, he really should listen to this. On their watch, over 1,000 Sure Start centres closed, early intervention demolished on their watch. But I said it was a mixed record because there was a fall in the number of first-time entrants into the youth justice system. It peaked at around 110,000 back in 2007, but it had fallen to just 7,500 whilst they were in office in 2023. When they entered government, there were around 2,000 children in youth custody. By the end of their tenure, it had fallen to just over 1,000. These were great achievements. It's interesting that the honourable gentleman doesn't want to celebrate those achievements that begun under David Cameron and Michael Gove. He asks about the age of criminal responsibility. He will know the Bar Council is consulting on this issue, and I look forward to receiving the conclusions of their work. He's asked about foreign national offenders. We're absolutely clear in this consultation that we will look at those 16 and 17-year-olds that arrive in our country from somewhere else, commit a violent crime. I'm afraid they'll be deported. We're really clear about that, and we've driven up deportation in our country. He asks about whether we are abolishing the youth court, whether we are abolishing the criminal standard. Of course we're not. But we are consulting on youth intervention courts because just as we've seen in the family area in our FDAC courts, problem-solving approaches, gripping the young person, gripping their parents, gripping those that work with them, looking at the addiction issues that sit there, looking at mental health, giving them support, holding the multidisciplinary teams to account can really make a difference, and we stand by that. He asks about young people on remand. We want to recruit the new generation of specialist foster carers. Much better to have a responsible, loving adult. We used to have them. They abolished them. We want to bring them back and grow them so we can support these young people. A range of things that we can do in this white paper. And I encourage him to read it in detail because a lot of his predecessors would agree with it. It's a good work and we need to get on with it.
Shows like committee.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Can I welcome the white paper, which shines a welcome